Hi everybody, this is Lee. And with this video, I'm talking about mass incarceration, the concept of slavery as used as a form of punishment by the prison industrial complex, the 1994 crime bill, the war on drugs, and the harmful effects it's had on our community and our nation as a whole from a moral standpoint. Ava DuVernay has produced a documentary. It's available on Netflix, and it's an exploration of how the 13th Amendment has led to an epidemic of mass incarceration in the United States. And so it opens with an analysis of the 13th Amendment itself, which is neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States. And so what that means is even with emancipation, even with Reconstruction, slavery was never outlawed completely in the United States. Slavery of criminals was allowed. And so after Reconstruction, a very brief period when there was attempt to equalize opportunities in the United States for Black people, um, the situation became an effort more to render slave status once again to free Blacks by creating them into a class of criminals by criminalizing ordinary behavior such as loitering, not being employed, not stepping off the sidewalk, not having identification, being outside after sundown, an insolent look, things like this. So many behaviors that were criminalized and so were used as triggers and mechanisms to reinsert free Black men and women into slave status by branding them as criminals. So this has been going on since the official end of slavery. And we say it's official, but it still officially is within our 13th Amendment. Criminals are slaves to the state. And so we see that Jim Crow actually was used as a mechanism, the chain gangs that were rented out to do road work, to work in quarries, to work on construction projects, to bring in crops, involuntary servitude, slavery. And we see it now with the use of prison labor, that prison labor acquired through the criminalization of behavior that's not a danger to society, the mass incarceration, the drug wars that have been some of the worst social policy ever created within the United States, other than outright slavery itself. The war on drugs, the 1994 crime bill, corporate prisons, these all established a mechanism to fill the prison with occupants who could be used as slave labor. And so the chain gangs, the involuntary servitude, the slavery, it's carried forward. It's still with us. It's still happening. This documentary, which also includes Angela Davis, Charles Rangel, Henry Louis Gates, giving their thoughts on this new slave system, it's chilling. It's something that I think everyone should face, the truth of what our prison industrial complex has become a for-profit slave system, which has been expanded as beyond a rhetorical war. It was a rhetorical war that was started by Richard Nixon. It was continued by Ronald Reagan, and then it escalated into an outright war, and expanded beyond belief, underneath the presidency of Bill and Hillary Clinton, the co-presidents who created the 1994 crime bill and implemented it and expanded the prison industrial complex, slavery in America, even going so far as to collect checks as payment for their efforts all the way up until 2015, last year. Okay, so that's that movie by Ava DuVernay. It's called The 13th. It's on Netflix. I'm also going to recommend that if you have time to look at another documentary, it's called Slavery by Another Name. And this is by Public Broadcasting Station, who created this film. And I would use it as a companion. And then if you're still got some stomach left, if you still have the stomach to seek more proof of what the prison industrial complex has done to our society, our moral standing in the world by continuing the slave system, I would recommend Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow. It's a book, and it also provides even more facts and figures and statistics and proof of how this slave system has harmed our society. And it allows no way to ignore what's been happening to people caught up in this system, how their lives have been ruined, and how our moral standing in the world has just been tattered based on the slave system that we never really truly got rid of. So I would recommend that. There also is a story that I'm going to tell. It's Democracy Now! There's been a prison strike. Well, I'm actually going to speak on Ajamu Baraka's statement on this. He's given his support. There's a press release at the Jill2016.com website. Jill Stein is the Green Party Jill Stein is the Green Party presidential candidate. Ajamu Baraka is the Green Party vice presidential candidate. He is supporting the nationwide prison strike, to abolish slavery and win human rights for inmates. People are waking up, and they're starting to realize that we actually do have a slave system here in North America still, and that there has been a forcing of people to work for little to no pay, which is slavery. Plain and simple. And there is barbarism in the treatment of these inmates. It's a prison system that refuses to recognize the dignity of all people. And so to be treated with the minimum standard of basic human rights, whether or not there is a crime or a conviction, everyone has a right to be treated as a human. And so there's resistance in the prisons of over 20 states. Hundreds of inmates are refusing to go to work or to be enslaved or to work as slaves. And so there does need to be support from the outside, and Ajamu Baraka is encouraging people to support that effort. He's saying if that involves calling your family members who are in prison, then call. If it means sharing information on social media so that more people are becoming aware of this issue in our prison system, then share it. If it means submitting op-eds to the local paper, then write. If it means standing outside the walls of a prison with signs of support, then stand. Or if it's bombarding the local prison warden's office with calls, emails, and faxes, then do that too. But don't remain silent in the face of the slave system. He's saying that we cannot afford to ignore those who live in the shadows, those who live as slaves in our country. And that it's come to the point that hardly any of us exist who have not been affected in some way by prison slavery, oppression, and then the excuse me, and the impacts of policing today. And so overall, Ajamu Baraka and of course Jill Stein supports that effort to abolish and end slavery, the forcing of labor inside our prison system. Okay, and so now I'm going to get to that Democracy Now! Story. Excuse me. This story is dated October 14th. 3 Michigan prisoners die within 1 month amid crackdown on prison strike. And so there's been retaliation. There's been efforts to, there's been efforts to actually address this prison system, the slave system, and then there's been deaths. In Michigan, a prisoner at Kinross Correctional Facility has died of unknown causes. Charlie Anderson is the third person to die within Michigan's prisons, within a month. There's been crackdowns at Kinross Correctional Facility against the prisoners who are participating in the prison strikes. And so prisoners say that they did not show up to work at the kitchen on September 9th. This was the first day of the strike. And instead, they organized a peaceful march of 100 prisoners in a yard, hundreds. And they said an armed tactical team then stormed into the yard, handcuffed people, fired tear gas. And so some of the prisoners were left outside in the rain for up to 6 hours in retaliation. And so there's been deaths as well, and this is the third death as of October 14th inside Michigan's prison system, an effort to protest the forcing of labor for little to no pay, basically the slave system. So that's what's happening inside our prison system, and that's how it's been addressed by the prisoners themselves, by the Green Party, by our film and television and journalists who are addressing this issue. And so if you would like to learn more, I'm going to post these links in the description, and you can follow them and decide how you want to lend your assistance once you read through and discover what the issues truly are, and how they are just a black eye on our nation as a whole. It has destroyed our national moral standing in the world. It's a shame to us all that this exists. And so these are ways that you can address it. Thank you and good luck.